I want to talk about these games this weekend. I'm so fired up. I feel like there's so many great matchups. The NFL's got to be psyched. You get the Raiders in the dance. You get Joe Burrow in the dance. You got Bills Pats. You have Tom Brady. You've got Philly. You've got Niners Cowboys. That was our childhood. Like, the Steelers snuck in, even though they're not great. Like, you get all their fans involved. So this is an exciting weekend, and it starts with Raiders, Bengals, and Bills Pats. And on Saturday, we're going to be looking at some weather. It's going to be cold in Cincy. It's going to be cold and windy in Buffalo. Surprise, surprise. You're a guy who's played in Chicago. You've played in the cold. You played in the rain. We're going to get rain in Tampa. We might get some snow in Cincy. Tell me about, and it's a general question, which weather systems are overrated and which are underrated when it comes to, like, actually handicapping a game. And here I am, I don't mean gambling, I mean trying to analyze how it's going to go down, because we'll hear something like 14-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Does that scare you as a pass catcher? You'll hear snow, you'll hear rain. Like, help me through which ones actually matter in the passing game.
Yeah, I think it's so true. I actually talked to somebody about this yesterday, and I'll get to it in a minute. But to answer your question, I personally never liked wet games. Like, I didn't like rain. Temperature didn't really bother me too much. Cold, hot, that didn't really bother me. Moisture, wet grass, wet
Miami.
Ball. So in Miami, it was a different element because it was either thunderstorms or it was 95 and you were sweating your whole life and everything was wet. Like, so it's funny. So in a playoff game back in like 2014, we were hosting the Cardinals. And it was a driving rainstorm. It was just like a constant rain the whole game. It was wet. It was nasty here in Charlotte. And my whole career, I wore normal wide receiver gloves, like the traditional gloves. They had that little tack to them, but you can't wear them, right? In the wet, they just become slick and you can't control the ball. So I went to what they call these tracer gloves, which is like a hybrid leather, but it's also got a little tack to it. So it's kind of like a halfway. So I went to that in the middle of the game, loved it, loved the feel of the wet ball, loved how the traction. For the rest of my career, so another 7 years, never wore traditional wide receiver gloves again because of that game in bad weather. I just felt it allowed me to, if I was sweating, if my hands touched, if I was blocking you and you were sweating and you were wet, and all of a sudden now they throw me the ball, could I catch it? Like, all those things are going through your head. So weather definitely has a factor. I never liked playing in the rain. But like you said, the biggest message that we used to get, and I thought it was the best way to handle it offensively, was like, you got to make your plan during the week. We can't be in the second quarter and you got the wrong sleeves on. You don't got the right cleats. The ground's wet. The ground's frozen.
It's raining. It's Chicago. Whatever. I mean, Chicago's grass was, I remember you and I in 2000, maybe 10, and we're there playing y'all, and we locked up and I slid. And I don't feel like you've ever pancaked me. I mean, we've had some battles, but like, I slid back 3 yards because there was no traction. Like, there was no traction. That was one of the worst surfaces in football. So you guys are constantly thinking about that stuff, running routes and that type of thing.
Totally. And the biggest thing is you got to figure it out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Come Sunday morning, the cleats you put on, sleeves, no sleeves, gloves. If it's raining, whether some guys go no gloves, whatever it is, that decision needs to be made by the end of practice Friday. Because if you go into the game and in the first quarter, you're still trying to get your shit right. You're cutting your sleeves off. You're adding a sleeve. You're changing your moldeds to screw ins. If you're doing all that in the fourth quarter, you've put yourself in a tough spot. So
it's also one more thing you're worried about, not like
weather's real.
Yeah.
And the meathead philosophy, everyone wants, you just got to play the wet. That's bullshit. Like, we all know the weather is a factor if you let it be. So make the right decisions. Don't try to be a hero. Plan for it accordingly. And that way you can go out and hopefully not let it be a factor if you don't let it.
Now, have you ever been like, damn, it's so cold, it's going to be hard to catch the ball? Like, from a standpoint of, I don't know how Aaron Rodgers receivers sometimes catch the ball up there. Like, you almost, do you go into a game and say, this is going to hurt, to catch this football?
Yeah, there's some games that I played in Chicago. I played a game when I was in Carolina. We went up to Minneapolis. We played at that college. I think the kickoff.
I remember that year too. They didn't have a stadium.
They didn't have a stadium. I mean, it was like kickoff like 5 or 6 degrees.
Terrible.
I'll tell you. But what you said before, I think, is even more of a factor. The cold is always a factor. The ball's harder, whatever. I always thought wind was an issue, right? To be able to push the ball down the field. Everyone talks about the quarterback, but really it's like catching a curveball. right? It's catching a curveball that you're not a catcher understanding where that ball is going to go. It could go anywhere. It could sail. It could dive. The point, wherever that point came out, it would kind of take it. So I always didn't love passing games when it was wet, and I didn't love when it was super windy because I felt like I was always on the defensive. I was always hoping to God that I caught the ball as opposed to just being smooth.
Yeah, I'm looking at this Bills-Pats game. I mean, everybody's talking about it's very cold, and I feel like people are going to conflate that. No, it's supposed to be 0 degrees here. It was 36 at time of kick in Buffalo the first time they played with wind gusts in the 40s. Now, the gusts are going to be in the teens now, so it's going to be a different kind of game. What we're really contending with here is the cold, and Josh Allen hasn't been his best in cold weather games. I mean, week 17 against Atlanta, 11 of 26, 123 picks. That was 25 degrees, but he also played well against Carolina at 29 degrees. How do you see this matchup going? And who do you think the weather actually favors? Because I know the weather favored the Pats the first time with those massive wind gusts, but I don't feel like the years of, it's cold, I'm worried about playing the Pats. I think those years are kind of over a little bit. I mean, Mac Jones looked great the first half of the year, but he looked more like a rookie late. There's no Tom Brady there. There's no guy that's played deep into January in Foxborough every year for 10 years. Like, how do you see this going, and how do you factor in the elements here?
Yeah, I think for both teams, being northern teams and being used to playing in cold and bad weather this time of year, it's not nearly as important as say, Tampa Bay was going up to Cincinnati and it was going to be 5 degrees. That's real, right? You're coming from a climate. You can't prepare for that. You can't, even if you had played like that in college or you played at a northern school at another part of your career, like it doesn't matter. You're still a southern team. Your blood's different. You feel different physically. Yeah. So I think for New England to play in that weather in their own right, to go up to Buffalo. And of course, Buffalo, they live in that weather all year pretty much. I don't think it's nearly as much of a factor as if it would have been, a Southern team going up there or whatnot. Yeah. So I don't know how much it'll be. The wind not being as much of a factor as it was on that Monday night game we saw early in the year, I think is big. I think if you're both those teams, you go in and it's business as usual. Yes, it's cold. Yes, there's stuff. But for the most part, Josh Allen's got to
run their stuff.
You got to play.
They'll run their stuff. I feel like they will. And I feel like if I'm the Pats, I'm actually a little bit terrified because we couldn't slow them down if I'm the Pats the second time we played. I mean, the first time we had such a good taste in our mouths. If I'm on the Patriots, I'm a Patriots fan because we took advantage of those elements. The second game was more of I believe, a window into what it looks like a third time. And if I'm the Bills, I feel like they can move the ball through the air. I mean, these conversion situations, they're almost like automatic now for Josh Allen. It's kind of with the way he can extend plays. How do you think the Pats can slow him down if they can at all?
If anybody can do it, right? That's always been Bill Belichick's, claim to fame is in critical games, playoff games, conference championships, of course, Super Bowls, when he has time to prepare for teams and just say, all right, this is our season. We got one and done. Right. He's going to provide some sort of wrinkle. He's never going to allow your greatest strength to beat him. That's always been kind of his philosophy. I mean, you know that as good as anybody. But I think when it comes to, this is a quarterback league, right? That's the obvious case in point. But, so for Mac Jones, never been in that fire before, never played. I think Buffalo might be a better team. I think they're really well coached. And Josh Allen's been in those, played last year in big time games, been in those big battles. He's kind of, for a young guy, he is a little bit more seasoned. Yeah. So I would say he's got to have a little of that edge. But listen, I mean, Bill Belichick's going to have a great scheme. Their defense is going to always play at a high level. At some point, though, Mac Jones and that New England offense is going to have to make some plays. And it's not going to just be 3 yards in a cloud of dust and hopefully you outwear them. They're going to have to make some plays. They're going to have to push the ball downfield. They're going to have some element of a drop back passing game, regardless of the weather conditions, if they're going to find a way to pull that upset on the road. So can they do it? Absolutely. I don't think
it sounds like you like the Bills.
I like the Bills. Yeah, if you're putting a gun to my head and I'm picking one or the other, I'm taking Josh Allen. I'm taking their experience. I'm taking the home game. I'm taking all those factors. But the elephant in the room is across the field. You have the greatest coach of all time who his team is going to always be prepared. They're always going to have a shot. They're very rarely going to hurt themselves. Yeah. But they have to overcome a rookie quarterback who's had a great year, but he's still a rookie quarterback.
And they don't have the bye that's been so key to them, sculpting a game plan. It's tailor-made to exploit your weaknesses. So I think if you're the Bills, you're feeling good about that. And then also, I want to bring this up again. Last year, I thought one of the biggest travesties was with COVID that the Bills Mafia did not get to enjoy home games in the playoffs. And so here you got one. I think it's going to be electric. And I think it's just, I agree with you. I lean the Bills because of this very special guy under center that they have. Earlier in the day, Derek Carr has not to dwell on the weather, but in the cold, 0-5 in games under 37 degrees. It's going to be 27 in Ohio Saturday. We might see some snow. I think the only way that the Raiders win this game, Joe Burrow has thrown for 971 and 8 touchdowns. I was going to put an asterisk next to that over his last 2 games with the Ravens and the Chiefs, but he did it against the Chiefs as well, not just the walking wounded in Baltimore. I think the only way that they can slow down the Bengals is these rushers. That's it. So you as a tight end, how would you, if you're Coach Olsen, slow down these edge rushers? Like, how do you prefer, hey, Greg, we're going in this week, we've got, I don't know, Julius Peppers or somebody, and you played with Julius, but say you were on the other side. Do you like chipping? Do you like covering these guys up? Do you like just getting a bunch of guys out in the route and getting the ball out quick? What do you think is the best way to neutralize a rush?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I think you don't ever want a pass rusher, right? We go into a game against you or Pep or whoever. We never want you to know who's blocking you from what direction and what the timing of the quarterback's drop. We want to make sure it's empty, it's max protect, it's rollout, it's boot, it's play action. We want to make sure we change the landmark and we change your rush angle, your depth. We can't let you run to 9 yards behind center and just pick a spot and run there 30 times a game. You're going to kill us. Yeah. Right. So it's got to be 3-step, 5-step, half boot, full roll, play action. Now, as far as accounting for you, sometimes your tackle is going to have to just sit on a short edge and he's going to have to block you one-on-one and he's going to have to man up and do it. But we're going to edge, we're going to chip, we're going to have a tight end in sort of like a nub split where he's not on your nose because now you're affecting my route, right? Yeah. So if I'm holding you close to the tackle in my split in a 2-point stance, say to the boundary, I'm going to capture your outside shoulder where you're not going to hit me, but you also can't just run a real wide hoop and put our tackle on an island. It
affects our angle. What you're talking about is so important for people to understand is like when that tight end split in a little bit and he's not quite covering me, the end, or whoever the end is, and he's not tight enough that I can get outside you and just get wide in a 9. It's this weird no man's land that's inevitably going to affect my angle. And we always talk about tilt track, speed track, a tilt track being I tilt in at the tackle and close the distance, a speed track being I go straight up the field and try to beat you to a spot. But when you go a speed track, you don't want to line up right on the outside hip of the tackle. And that's the inevitable, like, kind of conundrum you've put me in by splitting in that tight. So, yeah, I think what you're talking about, I hated a lack of rhythm as much as I hated, like, a predictability of I'm getting chipped every play. It was the varying of what y'all do, and the drop target's huge. People don't think about that. A guy will get a sack at 10 yards, and everybody's like, what a rush. It's on the quarterback.
Yeah, of course. He's got to slide up, make you wide, take that angle away. And again, if it's 1st and 2nd down and I'm standing outside you, you also have to be alert for me to pin you, right? Do a pin and pull. So now you've got to make sure you play strong outside and hold your gap in the run game. Now, if it's 3rd and 12, your hair's on fire and you're running up the field, right? So down and distance affects my landmark, pass situation, who the rusher is, how good he is, how good's my tackle. Right. There's a lot of factors, but my number one thing, at least when I was when I was playing at my best, like, coach, I ain't chipping anybody. Like I'll hold them with my split. Yeah. You need to throw me the ball. And if it's 3rd and 8, I can't chip the end and you talk about timing as a pass rusher. Well, I need timing as a route runner. My head's got to be up. I've got to see the coverage. I've got to get off on the snap count. I've got to be quick out of my burst. Yeah. Maybe I'm getting jammed, right? Maybe they have a safety pressing me and I got you inside and I got a man outside leverage defender and I'm trying to navigate off the line, but I'm getting stuffed because I got nowhere to go. Right. Yeah. So all these things I got to worry about. So sometimes I'd say, hey, coach, that tackle, he needs to block this fucking guy.
Yeah, it just has to happen. So
he's got to block this guy.
Sorry, you took Jamar Chase. Now, this guy's got to block Max Crosby.
Totally. And to your point with the Raiders and those edge rushers, everything in their plan this week needs to start protection out. You can get on a whiteboard and you can draw the best pass concepts and get Jamar Chase and get all their guys rolling and have Joe Burrow feeling, I'm going to throw for 500. If you can't protect, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Right. So they got to say, all right, offensive line coach scheme, what's our best schemes on 1st and 2nd down? And what's our best 3rd down, 2 or 3 protections? We can change it up, but also account for these guys. Whether that takes 5, whether that takes 6, whether sometimes that takes 7 guys.
Right.
Okay, now I know I got 3 in the route. I got 4 in the route. I got 2 in the route, but it has to start inside out, because if you don't protect the play, the routes don't matter.
No question. I mean, that's really interesting. I mean, and it's funny because Bill used to always make us chip tight ends. Like, it would annoy the hell out of us, but it's also good to know that it annoyed y'all. Yeah,
because it threw off my route, So when I was in a 2-point stance and we would play the Patriots, or we'd play teams from that lineage that wanted to chip tight ends and then add rush, our tackles went into the game feeling like $1 million. The tackle had a great game. And I'd be like, yeah, I mean, he didn't give up any sacks, but the fucking guy spent the whole day hitting me in the slot.
Which is an awkward process.
It's a weird thing.
It takes both of us out of the play.
It's so crazy.
but I guess, you'll trade Greg Olsen for an outside backer in New England.
So I would end up just saying, screw it. I'm going to move my split and sometimes the rusher would be like, all right, I'm not going out this far. And then I'd quick move back in and buy myself a couple yards and say, all right, coach, I'm going to run my route from here. I know I'm a little wide, but and some guys, especially the young guys, my coach told me I'm jamming. I could have went and stood out of bounds.
Yeah.
And a guy's going to come jam me, right? Like that was usually the young guys. I was like, get out of here, man.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I'm leaning Bengals here. I mean, like the line's 5.5. I think, I think a lot of people are on the Raiders. I think they're afraid to swallow big and bet the Bengals do that. Eagles, Bucks, I really don't know what to say here. I mean, I really don't, because I've said I feel like the Bucks, and I'm not going to make you co-sign this, are going to have a hard time winning the Super Bowl with the injuries they've had. Now, Leonard Fournette's health is going to be a big swing thing. Like if he comes back and he's practiced this week and he's healthy, like that does change things. But the Eagles, how do you play Gronk? Because that's the guy that scares me. It was the guy that scared us in the Super Bowl when we beat Brady, or when Nick Foles beat Brady, not the defense. We gave him like 40 points. But Gronk came out in the second half, and it's like you called the Indy game. He was there. He's almost 40 years old, and there's little DBs bouncing off him like flies. So do you zone? Do you man? Like, what do you do against Brady and Gronk? Because Mike scares me, but Gronk terrifies me in this matchup.
Yeah, I think the challenge with Gronk over the years has been, kind of twofold. I think the number one hardest reason it is to defend him is because a lot of what him and Brady do on game day, you can't put on a piece of paper, right? You can't sit down with your back seven, your 7-on-7 squad, your linebackers and safeties and whatnot, and say, all right, he's going to run. If he gets to 10 yards, it's going to be a square in. If he's inside edge of the numbers, he tends to run a post. You can't really break down what they're doing, because a lot of the times they're just figuring it out on the fly. So it puts such a pressure on a defense, because there's no way really to like quantify it and say, here's his tendencies, here's his route tendencies, here's once he gets past 12 yards, it's no longer a break. He's going to go vertical. But he might break at 9, he might break at 11, he might break in, out. But because Brady and him are always on the same page, they make each other right. It's a very hard thing for defenses to stop. And that's why I've always been such a fan of coaches who let good players just play, because it puts so much pressure on the defense because you don't know what to tell them. Well, why'd you give up that seam? Well, he usually runs it at 12 yards and it's a high angle. And this time, because the quarter safety was down, he got to 9 yards and he ran a dig and he still caught it. What would you like me to do, coach?
Exactly. What would you like me to do?
What would you like me to do?
What would you have me do here?
So that's the problem. So as far as defending him, I think it's got to be like defending all good players. It's got to be different. Like we said about a great pass rusher, every look's got to put some sort of doubt in their head. Is it man? Is it zone? If the guy's up in my face pressing me, is he going to bail? Is he going to punch me at the line? Are they going to bracket me? Are they going to play over the top and get me underneath? Are they going to challenge me and make Brady throw it over their head? I think every play, Jonathan Gannon, if you're the D coordinator of Philly, you've got to put a little seed of doubt into what you're doing, and it's got to roll, because the second they know on 2nd and 12, if we go trap pass, you're going to be in a 2-high shell and I'm going to throw a seam for 7. The second they've got a beat on you, you're dead.
And they kill the backers with the high-low.
You're going to kill you. We're going to kill you.
Yeah.
We're going to absolutely, and Brady's going to kill you. So I don't know if you stop Brady. I don't know if there's anything you're going to do that surprises him. I just think you have to do little bits, little nuggets, just something to make them take one extra hitch, one extra pump, one extra, is he open? Check down.
Yeah.
Because if not,
that won the Super Bowl. I mean, one extra hitch. I mean, so people in Philly,
exactly.
Just a couple extra hitches here and we could win this thing. I don't know, man. The line's damn near 10 points. I'm going to bet the Eagles for the fuck of it. I think with the rain and everything, I'll go with the under because I could see this game either being tight and kind of ugly or I could see it being 30-10 Bucks. So Niners, Cowboys, this is the best game of maybe the best game of the weekend. If you're Kyle Shanahan, Dallas has been a turnover creating machine defensively, but I also think they have a tendency to get burnt in coverage. So how do you attack? What area of the field do you attack? Like, you know what I mean? Because Diggs is tantalizing. Like, you can get yards on him, but be careful, Jimmy G. Like, do you attack the middle of the field? Do you get the ball out on the perimeter quickly? How do you like attacking the Dallas defense?
Yeah, and you said we called them we called their games a few times this year, and really what Dan Quinn has implemented is we're going to make you drive long, right? We're going to make you go on extended drives because at some point one of my pass rushers is going to get home. I'm going to get a tackle for loss, and I'm going to force you into a penalty, either pre-snap or post-snap holding or whatever. And once I get you behind the sticks, I bring in Lawrence, I bring in Randy Gregory, Micah Parsons moves from Mike to edge rusher, and we just rip.
Yep.
And we come after you, and knowing teams don't want to be in that, you go max protect, you don't get routes, and all of a sudden it spirals. So that's what they want you to be. They are not worried about yardage. Just like you said, they are not worried. They could give up 400 yards of offense, and at the end of the game, give up 17 and have 3 takeaways. And that's their formula for success. And you mentioned Diggs. Yeah, he can give up some yards. Is he going to be in your hip pocket the whole game? I don't know if that's the kind of guy he is. But if that ball's not placed perfectly and it's in his catch radius, it's a pick.
Yeah, it's a pick. Or it's going up in the air and somebody else is going to pick the ball up.
Or it's deflected and someone else is running. And that's what makes him such a threat. He's not your typical DB.
But if you can make those guys tackle, like, hey, Kittle,
no
I don't know if they take Kittle away with Parsons. I don't know what they do with Parsons, but, Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, Jennings had a bunch of conversions last week. I mean, and also their third downs are not going to be 3rd and 7. That's at least what they're planning on. You know what I mean? You can't win that game being in 3rd and 7. And this is kind of, I feel like the perfect team to keep it 3rd and manageable, which is kind of why I like the under. That number's at 51. The point you just made, they're going to make them earn it. San Francisco is. And then on the other side of the ball, I like the pass rush matchup. I don't like the coverage matchups, but the way Dallas's offenses look, which has been, and this, off kilter since Dak got hurt, save for 1 or 2 games against backups in Philly and guys fighting each other on the sideline in Washington. I feel like this could be it could be a shootout, but I think it's a lower scoring game.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think the guy you mentioned that for the 49ers offensively have to get going. The last couple of weeks of the season, we had him in Tennessee, is Kittle. He got a couple catches early in Tennessee on that Saturday night and that Thursday night game before Christmas, and then didn't have another target, didn't have another catch. And then, last week, I know they won. I think he had 1 catch. Granted, it was 20 some odd yards, but he's got to be a factor, right? It can't just be Debo or bust. For as good as Debo is, Kittle's got to make a big impact on that offense. The play action stuff, the run after. If there's space underneath, Debo, George Kittle, we got to get them the ball in space, and now they got to become violent runners, which is what their identity is, right?
Yeah.
Punish the secondary, make corners tackle. That's what they are. I think if anyone's going to have a great game, I think Kyle Shanahan is one of the best game managers, best play callers schematically in the league. And I agree. And I think the same thing about Dan Quinn. So I agree. To me, that's the game I look forward to the most. I think they have great coaches, great players on both sides of the ball. I think that's going to be a really fun game. And yeah, I think, listen, Dallas's offense at any point could score 40 on you.
Yeah.
They got 1,000-yard rushers, they have multiple 1,000-yard receivers. Dak throws for 4,000. They have the pieces of the offensive line when they're healthy. Kellen Moore, a play caller. But you nailed it. They've just been off. And sometimes you can have all the talent in the world, and sometimes just things don't click. But if you're San Francisco, you're telling yourself, they ain't going to click today. We can't let them find their rhythm today, right? That always scared me when a team had a lot of potential or they got beat or something. You're like, shit, I hope they don't find their groove against us.
It's not going to be this week, is it? Yeah, like the law of averages and everything. And exactly. I don't know, he threw for 4,000. He must have thrown for 3,500 against the damn NFC East. So,
he did.
I mean, this is going to be a hell of a game. I actually lean Niners. And on that topic, the Niners beat the Rams twice and should surprise nobody because they've kind of had their number. You've been on a team, not to bring up bad memories, but you've been on a team that had a bad matchup one year. I think it was the Panthers and Saints. You played 3 times. The Saints got y'all, I think, 3 times in 1 year.
Yep.
Like, what was that like going into that game? Not that they're going to play for sure, but I could see these two teams playing again. What's that like in that locker room? Do you remember the meetings, like kind of the conversations?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like the pressure was more on y'all or them?
That year you're talking about, so that would have been 2017. Yeah. We felt the pressure was on them. We were solid. We were kind of a scrappy team. I think we won 11. We might have won 11 games that year. We were a wild card, or maybe we won 10. Or we were good. We weren't great. McCaffrey was a rookie. Obviously, we had Cam. We had lost. Teddy Ginn was now on the Saints. We had lost him from the Super Bowl year 2 years prior. So, I mean, we were good. I wouldn't say we were great. Our defense was really good that year. But I remember going down there to the Superdome, and we took the opening drive of the game, went down there, dropped a touchdown on 3rd down from like the 10-yard line that we just straight up dropped, missed the field goal, and we're like, holy shit! And then fast forward to the 4th quarter, we were down. I want to say we were down like 17, 8. I mean, we were down a good amount. I scored, then McCaffrey scored on a long little like H post for like 50 plus. And next thing you know, we had the ball. We needed to score. We had it around the 20 or so. We got called for intentional grounding. But I mean, we were right there. And you're right. They beat us 3 times. They were probably a more talented team than us.
Yeah, they would have been that year. Yeah, that year they were rolling.
They were really talented. But that playoff game, I mean, I think we lost like 25-20 or
that's the year they got robbed. I think that was the year that the PI, and they would have come seen us, and I think we would have beat them.
I think it was either the year they got robbed, or it was the year that Minnesota hit that touchdown at the end to Stephon Diggs.
I think. Oh, okay, you're right. Yeah,
it was one of those two.
Yep,
those were back-to-back years. Yep. I don't remember which year matched up, but it was one of those two things. Yeah.
It's a tough mental thing, though. Like when a team's had your number, and it doesn't sound like you guys had that attitude, but I feel like, especially because of the fact that you guys were the dogs, like you were underdogs and that sort of thing. But like the Rams are the ones that everybody expected a lot out of this year, and it doesn't seem to have changed in that matchup. It's like the Niners, even when after that big 3rd and 6 and that big drive at the end of the game to go up 24-17, and you felt like the roof came off the place and it's over, the Niners are like, nah, like we still own you. And so there's going to be an interesting dynamic if they get to play each other again. From the mental side of things with these two teams, do you believe that Matt Stafford can recover if he doesn't show up in this game? Like, what's LA going to feel like? This guy's been in the league 13 years. I'm rooting for him. I hope he gets a playoff win, but he doesn't have one yet. If they go out here on Monday and roll the ball out and it's a stinker, which I don't expect. I think they beat the Cardinals. I don't think I'm missing anything. I think the Cardinals are just struggling. Do you think they second guess the Matt Stafford thing, or is this like?
I don't think I'm with you on the logic, right? I mean, he started out so hot. I mean, through the first handful of games, he was like MVP. Yeah. This is the, all world, he was having a great year. And then he's had some ups and downs. We called the Baltimore game, threw a pick 6, had another pick. But again, when they needed him the most at the end of that Baltimore game, they found themselves down 5.
Conversions.
He put the team on his back. Bang, 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 hit Odell on a 4th down. Then the next play, Odell for a touchdown. Bang, they win it late. Didn't play great, had a couple turnovers, but made the plays he needed to win the game late. So I'm with you. I expect Stafford to play well. I think Arizona's good, not great. I think they got off again to a flying start and then kind of continued to slow down and regress as the year went on, which is never ideal, right? They're kind of the opposite of San Francisco. San Francisco is going into the offseason, going into the postseason with a huge comeback win. Jimmy G had the drive of his career, in essence, to pull that game off. And then if you flip it and you're Arizona, you go in, they lost to Seattle. They'd kind of been up and down the last couple of weeks. They lost to Detroit. I mean, they lost to Carolina. They've lost to some bad teams.
Can anybody tell us what's wrong with them? I mean, I feel like everybody's kind of like it's conjecture and
It's tough.
It's
just
hard
rare to see a playoff team go from the number 1 seed in the conference. At one point they were, and then they're losing the games. Like, listen, losing to Arizona, even losing to a Russell Wilson Seattle team. Like, I get that.
That's been a battle.
But now you're losing to Detroit. You're losing to Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, those are bad. Those are just bad losses. So we'll see. Again, anything's possible, but I expect LA to play well. I expect Stafford to play well.
The biggest line of the weekend, Chiefs by 2 touchdowns. That's the word. I think it looks different than the first time they played. Is there a chance this game's competitive? Like, I don't think they have to score with Kansas City because I think the points will be down compared to last time. Because Kansas City's human this year. They're human. I don't care what anybody says about the win streak and that sort of thing. And my brother's on the team, but they're going to have to beat some teams in close games to win a Super Bowl. Can the Steelers make this close? And if you're the OC in Pittsburgh, like, what the hell do you do? Because I feel like 3-yard route concepts and quick screens and that sort of thing, a bunch of touches for Najee isn't going to give you 30 points on the scoreboard.
No, and I'm with you. I think you're spot on. And again, I think the Big Ben story is awesome. I'm glad he made the playoffs, right? However this weekend goes for him, the fact that potentially he could go off out of a playoff game and whatnot is a fitting end for what's been a good career. And, for them to sneak in that fashion, it was a cool story. I think it's a bad matchup for them. You nailed it. I mean, they don't really have the ability to push the ball downfield. They're a short, really, really short passing game. Granted, it's high completion percentage, but it doesn't really matter anymore in today's NFL. You got to push the ball down the field. The running game is going to be solid. He's been a great rookie, Harris, but you got to score 30.
Yeah, you probably do. At least
you're chasing 30 in your mind. Yeah. In your mind, you're going into that game and you're saying, if we're going to win, we got to score 30.
Did you guys used to do that? You guys used on offense, you used to be
absolutely.
Like, these are our, like, the points, the bottom line points goal.
Yeah, I think it depends. Obviously we knew, the years. And then on the flip side, we knew the years that we were really good and our defense was rolling. The pressure was, all right, even if we punt the first couple series, let's not be crazy. Let's not turn the ball over. Don't put your defense in a bad spot because we only have to probably score in the 20s and we're going to win.
Yeah.
So, guys aren't stupid. Guys understand the situation. So now you flip it and you go in and you're playing Mahomes and Kelsey in this offense. And then if you're Pittsburgh, you're not made to win these high scoring games. So they've got to figure out, how do they generate extra possessions? Do they be more aggressive on 4th down? If you get down in the red zone, you can't kick field goals. Field goals aren't going to win. They've got to make these decisions during the week and say, here's our best path to winning, and we're all in. And on game day, we don't second guess it. And I think that's their only chance is extra possessions, maintain the ball, score touchdowns in the red zone. Don't turn the ball. I mean, all those basic factors, because if you don't do those things and you're chasing 30 all day, they're just not made for that.